KXLU 88.9 FM Los Angeles. You're listening to a Fistful of Vinyl with Alec and John.
Okay, with whom? With whom?
Knock knock. I already won. You saw it coming. Does anybody want to finish the joke who hasn't heard it yet? Knock knock.
Who's there?
To who?
To whom?
Nice. There you go.
Dang it.
That's it. So that's all we have for you. We'll see you later. Have a good night. No, so we are here with some guests. Do you guys want to introduce yourself really quick?
Hi, I'm Alex Posca, and I'm co-founder and event manager of OCDIY.
Hi, I'm Nadia Diaz. I'm the co-founder and volunteer coordinator for OCDIY.
And I am Will. I am a co-founder of OCDIY and also president.
El Presidente.
El Presidente, actually.
Before we move on, can you do the knock knock joke right?
No. That was the funniest way that it could have gone.
No, it's knock knock.
Yeah, who's there? Yeah.
Two.
I know, to who, to whom, but...
Yeah, no, but...
Okay, I mean... Now you're just getting pedantic.
Why do I do a radio show with you?
I know, that's a good question.
It's a good word.
Pedantic.
Yeah. I like it.
Cool, yeah, me too.
Not to split hairs, but that's not what I'm being.
Yeah, it kind of is.
You can look up pedantic right now for everyone.
I think, yeah, if you really want to. So you guys are trying to open a space. You've been throwing shows, doing like record label stuff, it sounds like, and
Yes, sir.
do you want to kind of give like a brief overview of what the mission statement of OCDIY is and like some of the goals that you have in mind and some of that stuff, and then we can get to playing like some of the music that we've paired and some of the music that you've brought?
Yeah. So, well, basically the mission, since we started in October 2014, is we've just been working to open a safer, sober, all ages, accessible music and arts community space for Orange County. Just basically a place where people can, you know, come express their art, be in front of a community of people that they feel they can trust, especially for like playing those first shows or those first times that people are, you know, coming into the light and doing that sort of thing. So just basically setting up an environment based on that and giving people a good environment to do that in. That's what we've been pretty much focused on.
I think it's cool. I mean, as somebody who is from Orange County and like kind of parts of those worlds, there was definitely, when I was younger and living there still, there was a huge lack. Like I was definitely driving up to LA to go to the Smell all the time because that stuff wasn't going on the way that it sounds like you guys are trying to make it go on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like an important thing to be able to fill those gaps.
Yeah, there used to be a group down in Irvine running out of UCI called Acrobatics Every Day. A lot of kids who were part of KUCI, the radio station there, started doing that around like 2007 and 8, or maybe 2008 and 9. That's right on time I graduated high school, and then I left, and I heard about all the stuff that was happening at UCI where they had like Mount Erie, Health, Meiji, people like that play on campus at UCI, which is pretty cool. But then everyone who was doing that kind of graduated. And so around like 2012, 13, there was definitely like kind of an empty space where people had previously been doing a lot of shows and a lot of local bands, a lot like the early burger bands were playing those shows. And they were all just thrown in like portables and weird restaurants on campus by actually Sam Farzan from Media Jeweler, who we've had play a couple of our shows. And since then, there hasn't really been a consistent like spot. There's been consistent places where people can host shows, but a lot of things have gone back to house shows.
Yeah.
And so we kind of need like an actual unified spot that people can come to and like get involved if they don't really know where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of like you said before, the thing about house shows is that like unless you're already a part of the scene, you're not going to go to them.
Yeah,
that's a hard way
it's just it's not as accessible. Nothing against house shows because those are
great.
the best.
I've been throwing
shows.
them, right?
Yeah.
They're awesome, but like
The thing about house shows, usually it's the same bands every time. You know, it's obvious that bands have friends who are in other bands, but then you just get like that cycle where like only like the friends of each band are playing. You don't get a lot of variety for like other bands who aren't as well known or who don't like know those bands that are playing with hot
Yeah,
shows.
sure.
People who don't have that stepping stone,
Yeah.
it's a little harder for them to break in.
And I saw that you guys on your Indiegogo page, which you have, I saw that you guys were talking about like developing a database of artists, and like that's I think that's a super interesting way to go about building a scene, right? Is to do it in some like kind of objective way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we started doing that since we began. I mean, we all came from a bunch of different I guess you could call them scenes, but also just friend groups where we all knew our own group of friends, our own group of bands. And then when we came together, it's just like, okay, how do we consolidate all this information? Because we want to connect you with this, we want to connect these bands with these bands. It's not really like we're building a scene or like making a scene. The scenes are there.
Yeah,
we're
right.
just, stitching them together and try to get everyone connected. So database seemed like the best way to be able to do that. And there's been so much functionality that I've envisioned that would be like really just good for us to be able to use, because now if like we have bookers or something, like we can just look down a list of like, hey, here's all these people in like this sort of genre that need to be on like this sort of bill, and like there's this one new band that just came in and they're also this genre, but they don't know any of these guys. So how do we connect the younger, newer artist that wants to play for the first time with the existing group of people that we already know are popular in this scene? And we can be confident that that newer person is going to probably jump into a crowd of like an audience that's going to be well receptive of their music, and they're already going to have like good fans.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Alex knows a lot about this too. It's just like same way we book our shows. It's more of like a process of curation, because we want to network people with, other bands that'll be an effective connection for them.
Yeah,
not just
definitely.
throwing them into like a giant melting pot of randomized shows, which is not anything bad about that either.
Sure.
But we like to be a little more careful with like making sure we're doing something effective for the artist by putting them in a group that we know will be good for them.
Sure.
Yeah, there are already people doing kind of, hate to say it, like randomized shows in Orange County. There's a group out there that is putting on shows that if you want to play a show and not have to pay to play, and you want to play in front of people, you can play.
Yeah.
We're not the only thing that exists, but we have a specific kind of like vision and curatorial mindset when doing this. It's not just like we're going to open a space and we're just going to let whatever craziness happen. There are places where that goes down, and that's cool, and we need those spaces. But in Orange County, it's not sustainable. And the real big problem, I think, in DIY across the country is sustainability. It's great that places pop up for a couple of years and like create communities, but a lot of that doesn't continue on, and there's kind of this idea of aging out of punk and DIY that is sort of problematic, and at the same time makes a lot of sense, because playing music and living an itinerant, mostly poor lifestyle is really a young person's game. To sound like an old fart,
I
It
vibe
does
on
get
that.
older with age. So I want to tie this back to your Indiegogo, and one of the things that I observed in the series of videos that you guys posted up there was something I thought was really cool, and not something that I've seen other crowdfunded DIY all ages spaces do, and that's like ways in which you can get involved that aren't necessarily like through monetary influence. You guys had a whole video about like potential questions and answers about like, what if you're a parent of a kid, what if you're a kid who's like under 18, what if you're like only available this time, and you guys addressed all that. I want to sort of talk about like, I want to hear you guys talk about like what sort of a conversation was that beforehand, and like what role do you feel like a community plays in supporting a DIY space?
Well, although we're not like explicitly an educational organization, part of our goal in getting people involved is teaching them, like is passing on skills. That's one of the big things about DIY, is that like you can pass on skills and teach people how to do things that they might not have ever thought was possible to do. We've had so many more new people book shows because even if you've been involved with us up till this point, you've learned to do new things. Like some of us have certain skills in certain areas that we're able to pass on, and that's great. We have new people who can do sound, people who are taking pictures and doing a really great job at it. People are booking their own shows for the first time, and we really can only thrive on like community support and community engagement and individual support and people coming and volunteering, because that's what we're doing. All our work is volunteer. Nothing's paid, and we're doing this because we really believe that those opportunities need to be provided for people, and if they can get it in a safe, accessible way, and if we can raise money together to like build a space, it can be a place that we can all enjoy together, and everyone can learn and get something out of it without it being like a school kind of setting.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of skills that so many people bring to what we're trying to build and just the community and what the space we're trying to make. So it just basically came down to when we started doing this and getting more input from more people, we wanted to make sure that, you know, if there's anything that you like to do specifically, or you want to further your own or hone your skills at better, whether that be doing sound or taking pictures or making art for our flyers, or even if you're just a parent and you want to help out with like your kids and like how to, you know, make the community better and like figuring out how to volunteer with us, we wanted to put those resources out there as quick as possible, because there is a lot of people that want to help, and if we're not figuring out where to exactly put those people to make their needs to help us or wants to help us like effective, then it's kind of like it's not helping us that much too. So it's very like an all-encompassing thing where it's like we need to help each other figure out like where everyone's going to be most effective in growing this thing together.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to play some music on that note. I'm going to just put on some of this track. This is a record by Forest Fire, who is this dude Cut Eastbound from Canada. Super talented dude. I'm going to put that on for a while we set you guys up with some music that you've brought in. It sounds like you have some like 7 inches, 12 inches and stuff. So we'll have you play some of that, and then you can talk about it, like why it is that you brought it and how that has affected you, and then we can talk some more about what you guys are up to.
I'd also like to point out we have a phone line here, 310-338-5958, 310-338-KXLU. Call in with any questions that you guys have. It's not every day you get a new... we tend to lose DIY all ages venues a lot faster than we gain them, so it's not every day we're in a position like this. So call in and let's talk about it. 310-338-5958, 310-338-KXLU.
KXLU 88.9 FM Los Angeles. You're listening to a Fistful of Vinyl with Alec and John and
OCDIY. Naughty OCDIY.
yeah, man. Is that Germanic, that name?
Huh? Yeah.
Never mind. It's nice to have you guys.
Thanks. It's nice for you to have us.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a mutual experience. So you just played some music. Do you want to talk about it?
Can you back announce the order it was in?
Yeah, definitely. The last band you played was Crow Baby. The song called Gutted.
Crow Baby, they played one of our shows that we hosted at Beatnik Bandito, a really cool record store in Santa Ana. Yeah, they're mostly female-led. Yeah, they're like a kind of like a punk band from Los Angeles, I believe. And yeah, they played really well. And I just checked their Bandcamp, and you know, I was hooked.
Cool. Yeah. Before that, you played Media Jeweler with a song called Looking Glass Signal.
Yeah, Sam Farson from Media Jeweler is that guy I was talking about earlier who did Acrobatics Every Day. They just put out that 7-inch a couple weeks ago, and their new album's coming out, I think, within like the next month on Fire Talk. But those guys are rad. They played our Winter Fest back in December. We did like a two-night music festival at this warehouse in Santa Ana. And they played that. They played a couple of other shows of ours since then as well, and they play at Parispace and The Smell all the time. They're really tight. Watching them is like being transported to like a different sort of mind space. Mind altering in a way. I don't know. They're really tight.
Yeah, we're. Before that was a band called Parker's Back. Song Books.
Parker's Back is a really awesome band, and I love them so much. I love playing with them. They're based out of Fullerton, I believe, and they played one of our shows at Program Skate and Sound. Really cool group of people.
What is that? Where's Program State and Sound?
That's in Fullerton also. It's a skate shop that we do a good amount of our shows in for North County.
Cool.
Yeah, program's run by Chris, who used to be in Death by Stereo. Him and one of the other guys from Death by Stereo own the skate shop.
Cool.
And for the last at least 5 or 6 years, if not more, they've been letting kids do shows there. And initially it was like a lot of hardcore bands, it was like grindcore kind of stuff that was going on there. And I first found out about it from Garrett LeBlanc of the band Fugue and Jeremy Leisure from Canyons. And they were doing shows there. So I figured that would be a good place for OCDOI to probably do shows. And we just kind of talked to Chris and struck up a conversation, and he cuts a really good deal, and he's really supportive of the local scene. Like, he really like cares about people being able to play shows, and he has a good enough, kind of lucky setup in where he is in the shopping plaza where he gets away with it. And he's such a welcoming and accommodating guy. Like, he is there 5 days a week from like 7:30 to like 11:30, basically putting up with kids like playing music. And he has like a kid and a family, and he still does this in addition to like running the shop all day.
Yeah.
So we're like immensely grateful to him, and I think our local scene is a lot better because of him.
Cool.
Chris is cool. Follow Chris on Instagram and stuff.
Program Skate and Sound, Fullerton. It's on
Cool.
Chapman.
That's
Right
right.
by Cal State Fullerton.
Sure.
What's the hashtag? Get with the program. Follow that. Find that.
Before that, you played a track by Boy Bloom, a song called Burnt Skin.
Yeah, Boy Bloom is a solo project by my good friend Nick Fitton. He is based out of Irvine. He played, I think, his first show as Boy Bloom.
Yeah.
At one of our fundraiser shows in San Clemente Art Supply.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really crazy seeing him play live because he had like loop pedals. He had his friends Megan and Barbara. They have their own band called Slice. They backed him up on like keyboards and drums. It was just a really cool show.
Cool. This is his first show, and it was really good.
Cool.
Yeah. Like
That's all I have to say. It was good.
It was really good live, but his recordings are insane.
Yeah.
Check him out on SoundCloud, Boy Bloom.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you started this off with Kuroshi Boy.
Yeah, Kuroshi Boy. I think those guys are all mostly from Corona. They had been setting up shows at Sinbad's and out in Riverside and Back to the Grind in Riverside. And they played a bunch of different places in Orange County. And we've had them play a couple of our shows at Program. I don't know if we've had them play anywhere else, maybe at Beatnik. They're also in another band called Casual Friday that we're going to play later. And Casual Friday
did Beatnik show.
Yeah, Casual Fridays played at Beatnik and at Program for us. Yeah, we're just lucky that there is a couple places in Orange County that like lets us do music and lets us have these shows. Like, we actually kind of mentioned most of them going through those last couple artists, which is cool. Like, we do San Clemente Art Supply, which is down in South County, and it's tough because there's not a lot of places to do shows in South County besides people's houses, which, as we discussed earlier, is kind of a tricky thing to negotiate. And in North County, we've had Beatnik Bandito, who's helped us out a lot, and Program Skate and Sound, and those have been two really consistent spots for us. There was a place called Table A7 we were doing some shows at, but it got kind of out of control at some of their other shows because there were people drinking and there were drug use, and the cops showed up to some of their shows, and Table A7 shut down temporarily.
Wasn't
for a
it
while.
swatted?
No, it wasn't swatted.
Can we say swatted? Makes
No.
it sound more
There
intense.
was people that were fighting, and the cops showed up to break up the fight. And it sucked, and they were down for like a couple months, but I think they came back this summer. But now they're a lot more careful with who they let play shows and book shows there, which, it sucks in a way, but it makes sense because that's the way some of these spaces have to be to survive. It's the same thing at VLHS. Like,
Yeah,
not
right.
everyone can play at VLHS. Not everyone can set up a show at VLHS. So we're kind of hoping to offer an alternative. We still want to be in that spirit and like have that same kind of ethics, but we want to be more open. It's really tricky to negotiate putting new bands on the shows all the time when people don't know them, and really the name of the game in Southern California is good lineups for booking shows, because there's so many shows you could go to on any given night that people are picky and choosy, which is weird for DIY. That doesn't happen in many places, so that's really
Yeah,
cool
right.
that happens, but at the same time it's really tough for new bands. So by opening a space, we really hope to be able to book shows with a lot more new bands because we can host a lot more shows. Now we're limited. We can really only do a show a week, and sometimes it's almost too much because there's so many other shows happening at the spots we book at. So we have a spot, if we raise enough money, we'll be able to really like serve everyone on a consistent basis and have new bands playing a lot, have old bands playing, have popular bands playing, get unknown bands playing with a little more known bands, and have people when they come through on tour have the option to not play Chain Reaction and to not play the Observatory and to not play places like that and actually be in like more community-based setting, maybe more like where they like grew up playing, be either in like New York or Pittsburgh or Chicago or Bloomington.
And it is a funny thing to be in a city where there are just like always things going on, right? Especially because people like when they're from places like Bloomington, right? Everybody's going to the same thing, and the community sort of develops itself. I think that trying to develop a community or like a safe community space where you can get these touring bands to come through and like spend their time there and develop like a supportive system of people, it's such an important thing. And you were talking about sustainability before. Like I have been a part of so many DIY things that have opened and closed, and I think that at the end of the day, committing your energy to a place that will be able to serve a community of people for a long time is super worthwhile. And you're right, it's like a tricky thing to navigate though.
Yeah, and so we've had to raise extra money because getting a nonprofit status, like that costs us money. Having to get permits, it's going to cost us money. And those are things normally DIY spaces navigate around by either working in between the kind of loopholes you can, make up basically and convince local neighbors and cops to believe. And like going to the other side of that is really tough. It's expensive, and there's been places in like New York that have been doing that a lot, like Transpecos, the Silent Barn, and places like that have been going legit, as like a lot of people are saying, becoming nonprofits or becoming in businesses or incorporated limited partnerships. And that's really like the kind of next wave for DIY to be sustainable, is to spend money on actually making the buildings up to code and like actually having permits. And it really sucks to have to go back into like the normalized system of like governmentality, especially in like modern day America, but
especially in a city like, or in a
especially
like
Orange County, which is very conservative. I mean, that's changing, but it's still never going to go away, especially in the areas where like me, Will, and Nadia live in South County. That'll always be conservative. In North County, it's a little better, but it's hard. It's going to be interesting trying to find, like, we haven't actually found the spot we want. And everyone keeps asking, like, hey, like, where are you going to do it? Have you found a spot yet? Are you looking at places? Are you talking to realtors? And it's like, well, rent is going to vary, like, depending on where we end up looking at in Orange County. There are a lot of cheaper places in northern Orange County. There's a lot of probably more expensive places in southern Orange County. But there's certain specific things we have to, like, look out for. And it's not as bad as, like, other spaces that are trying to operate more underground. But it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So... it's been tough being like, yeah, like, you're donating $5 at our shows, and that's like being saved up for the future.
Yeah.
But now we're at the point where it's like, okay, we have like a little bit of money, like, let's just push for the rest of this and like get this done.
Yeah. Quickly back on sustainability. One of our friends, Kyle Napolin, that runs the Dial in Marietta, they're currently operating out of the creator space. He gave us an interesting outlook at sort of the beginning of this whole journey, when we had a sort of mixer of all of us coming together from different collectives and organizations doing this type of thing. And he said, approach this type of thing like you're going to be here for the next like 5 years, 10 years, project what you're doing today based on the responsibility you'll need to have if you're going to be here for the next 10 years or something like that. So it's hard because a lot of people don't see like sometimes why we do certain things or have certain regulations. Like, why are you strict? This is a house show. Or like, why are you like this? It's like that. Or like, why are you acting like this when you guys are like small time? It's like, well, we're trying to be here for a long time. And there's a professional way to do it, and there's a way that'll make it the most sustainable. And that's where our responsibility is.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so easy to slip into like letting kids shrink at your space, and that kind of stuff that can be like so bad for what it means to have like a safe community that will be able to stay around for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the sobriety thing, it's like that's a safety issue, and that's also an issue for just having everyone socially on the same level.
Yeah.
We don't push it as a moral thing. People do what they do outside of our space, but in terms of keeping the space there and keeping what we do happening for a while, like those are the rules.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what is it about being a part of a DIY community that's so alluring to you? Like why this motivation towards like a directed local scene? Like why support these people? Why develop a community space at all? Like as opposed to spending your energy doing so many of the other available super important things that could be done. Like what is it about building a community space that you've decided is worth committing all of your energy to?
Well, I think this varies by person, but I'll let you guys go first. For me, I know there's like a long answer and a short answer.
All right, well, I'll give my short, not as good as Alex's answer right now. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it. To me, personally, I mean, when I was introduced to this type of community or scene, this was the first time artistically that, I felt validated, and it completely, changed my character about things, because playing at other shows or playing at bars or playing like a pay-to-play thing, like you're kind of picked up, thrown on, and then dumped off, and you don't really feel like there was any sort of camaraderie with like the bills or the people in that whole sort of situation. So what I found among like this type of community or just DIY shows in general is that it's a lot more trusting that you're building culture with people that see the same things you see. It's not like you're going to like a bar and then all of a sudden you're just trying to make money for like the bartender. You don't feel as much as a pawn for someone else's thing. You feel like you're playing with friends, you're talking with friends, you're buying each other's art, which is extremely important. So I mean, I feel like it's the place where culture truly starts, so that's why it's important for me. Cool.
And for me, before I helped form OCDIY, I had no idea that there was such like a strong, like a connected scene in Orange County. Like I only thought that like Chain Reaction was like the place to go to see like a band play, which is like not a good way to think. And so when I like met Will and Alex, I was like really surprised about like how many bands there are. Like before I listened to like what was on the radio or what I knew before, and now I'm listening to like so many good artists out there who are like underground or who play our shows. Also, it's helped me open up as an artist and musician. It's inspired me to like keep doing what I do. Also, I'm just really glad to see that what we're doing has inspired other people to continue what they're doing. Like sometimes like artists will contact us and ask if they can display their art at our shows, and it's cool because like it's for their first time like displaying their art like anywhere. Also, everyone that I met from OCDY have become like my really good friends, and when I started with OCDY, I was like a freshman in college, and that's when like you kind of become more not alone, but more independent. Like you have to say goodbye to your high school friends, and so you're like left in a place where you're like, all right, where do I start? Where do I begin? And this is where I'm beginning like my young adult life, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the short answer is that, like, in my opinion, local music is always the future of music. Like, what people are doing in their hometowns is, like, what someday could be, like, popular music. Maybe not pop music, but popular music. I think that it's important to, like, breed culture locally. It's the whole, the, like, whatever, the yuppie kind of, like, local culture kind of stuff. But at the same time, I think there's, like, if you want to get like heady about this, like you said, you have sometimes
sure.
you have really deep conversations. Like I really think it all goes back to a kind of like Marxist idea of like taking back the means of production.
Sure.
Like a lot of what is seen, especially in rock and roll music in the last like 4 decades, has been about like excess and like grabbing market share, having the biggest bands on the biggest tours and the biggest stadiums and the biggest production, just for the sake of being the biggest and like just for the sake of making something popular. Like they took like Nirvana, which is kind of like a strangely relatable band for DIY bands, despite like how big they are now, because that's where they actually came from. The next Nirvana will like come from someone's local scene, and if no one's there to like help that band along the way, like what if we miss them? Like that would really suck.
Sure, yeah.
You know? And so there's like that whole like political element to it, but at the same time it's become so accessible with the internet now that like that is not being made explicitly political, but it's still influencing people's lives. And so people are actually like connecting and making new friends. And like, I know when I was in high school, I didn't make a lot of friends outside of the high school I went to. Now it's crazy to me when I see high school kids at shows and they're like, they know kids from all over just from going to shows from different high schools. Like I wish I knew people like that in high school.
Yeah.
Like it makes me really happy to give people those opportunities. And at some point you have to decide if like this is something you really care about and there's like some deeper reason behind it, or if you're just doing it because it's an easy, accessible option, and to make like a sustainable space and do something sustainably. Like it really has to be something that is like at your core and part of like your moral and ethical code of being a creative person and being a citizen within a society. So DIY is like super important.
Cool.
It's super like helpful for so many people.
DIY or die.
Yeah, that's like the Fistful vinyl promise. We go like as lofty, as heady as we possibly can, then bring it right back down to the basis of like, basically DIY is the best. Like that.
Yeah, there's like
We deliver on the
no
promise.
other way to make friends.
There's no other way to make friends.
Like people you meet doing this, like people that have the same, like care about the same things as you, wear the same t-shirts as you, like wear the same kind of cutoffs you do, like pretty tight people in general.
Yeah, word. I think it's important, like you said, to take production back, or at least to be a part of the production system and to not allow it to be a thing that is solely produced from top down. And you're right about that being a thing that needs to be done for the local people, for sure. So I sympathize.
But yeah, Orange County's got a lot of cool bands and a lot
Yeah.
of great artists and a lot of really interesting people. People love to like hate on Orange County. Oh, it's so boring. There's nothing to do. Like
Sure.
I want to get out of here. But it's going to just keep being boring and lame if everyone tries to leave.
Yeah,
there are a lot
right.
of cool people who are in Orange County, and
Yeah,
I
for
suggest that people start meeting them and like doing stuff with them because they're really like amazing people.
I mean, I think in Orange County has always had like a kind of unwritten history, right?
Yep.
They've got like a punk scene, they've got surf music, and they've got like some of the best skating docks ever made are from Orange County. Like there's been a bunch of stuff going on there for the last like 50 years that has been really dope, but it does constantly get written off as like LA's conservative little sister.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I've like considered personally like trying to trace kind of like the history of punk and DIY back to kind of like San Pedro, how it goes from like San Pedro to Orange County, because around that time in the early 80s, of course there were bands in Orange County who were like on that same wavelength as like Black Flag and stuff.
Yeah.
And like that is traceable like up until today. Like people are part of the lineage. That's why I think people like Mike Watts so much still, because he's still part of it. Like he still plays small like small shows, but he's still also part of like one of the most influential like punk band, you know,
Yeah.
Minutemen. And like we all kind of descend from that in the Southern California DIY scene, and like part of it's also traceable to like K Records. I think it's really rad because like there is this like connection that goes back, like where DIY is part of punk, but DIY is a little bit different and it's a little bit better.
And I think that, I mean, punk has changed in a huge amount, or it changed really dramatically over time, and we've talked a lot about that. But like, if you go back and read books like Our Band Could Be Your Life and like really consider what it means for punk rock to like have started from a place of like violence and contrast, and to now be moving towards a place, at least in my opinion, of like sort of like surgence and like genuine acceptance and creativity, and like some of that stuff that is still punk in its way, because it's like very much self-propelled, but is no longer reliant on being like contrary for the sake of contrarianness. And I think some of that, and like again, like paying for things is like so not punk in so many ways. But if you really consider what it means to be doing the best by the punk scene, sometimes paying for things is not terrible, right? At least in my opinion.
Yeah, people should be buying other people's art. That's
Yeah,
a big. I run a label also, and like I'm always just like, man, like people should buy more stuff from other people. You know, like
Support
spend
local
your money
business.
on your friends and don't spend it on like Taco Bell.
Yeah.
So taco's better anyway.
Shots fired. So we are pretty much done here. We've got like 2 minutes left. Do you guys have any like parting words that you want to get out before we get off?
We have an ongoing Indiegogo right now to finish up our fundraising for the space. We could give you the long link, but honestly, everything that we do, videos about everything that we're doing, booking, shows, events, all that stuff, that's on our website at orangecountydiy.org.
Yeah, and for all of our fans, we'll be sharing this information on our Facebook as well, facebook.com/Fistful of Vinyl.
Yeah, we got a lot of different things and rewards on our Kickstarter. We have just your general like kind of merch stuff. We have like year-long kind of like show passes up there. We have a special T-shirt for people who donate to the campaign, and that's like a multicolor, like two-sided, like front and back design. That's gonna be really cool looking. We also have like art packages where we're gonna have like prints from local artists in Orange County and records from local bands in Orange County that are part of those packages. And there's a lot of different options, and if you want to just donate, you can just donate. And since we are a nonprofit, you can get a write-off on your taxes. So we're hoping that some people will like take us up on that and maybe get some bigger donations, because you can write off on your taxes, and there are a lot of rich people in Orange County. And at this point, like, we could use the money. Like, we did everything grassroots, so anything that people want to donate to us, like, we will take. And we're really trying to get as far as we can with this fundraiser.
One thing I was going to say that I also thought was pretty dope about your guys' Indiegogo page is that you had decided via some things that you talk about in the videos and stuff that you need $10,000, and you guys raised $5,000 by yourself and then are asking to raise $5,000, right? I think that's a super cool, honest way to go about trying to get at finishing a project like this.
Yeah. I mean, like, we showed that we want to do the first half, so now we're just kind of looking for the second half.
Yeah, I mean, especially us three, who are like three of the people that have been there since the beginning. Like, we put a lot of our own time and money into this. I know, like, doing this takes up a lot of our days, and on top of the other creative projects and the other shows that we all do. And so there's only so much you can do on your own. Like, you really need to like utilize the benefits of the community and like the things that we all can do together. Like, it's really about a group project and not being just like a little clique of people who like run a show space, because those spaces are good, but those aren't necessarily sustainable. And we have a different kind of vision that's not maybe the most pure kind of thing in some people's eyes, but what we want to do is make something that will be around. Building an institution is kind of like a weird concept in DIY, but like slowly but surely.
Yeah, and it takes those things like somebody who owns a skate shop for 5 years to be able to throw shows out all the time, and like those are the things that end up like keeping kids playing music.
So any support you can offer, check us out on the internet, orangecountydiy.org.
We got shirts for you guys too.
Shirts. Sick. Oh, sick. You like for us right now?
Yes.
Oh, I just thought you meant for the people. Dude, this is great. What a surprise. I wish you had a canyon.
You get a t-shirt.
Yeah. Thanks, Oprah. So this has been another episode of Fistful of Vinyl. Hopefully you learned something about yourself and the people around you.
Do you want us to play a song?
We are out of time.
Okay, never mind.
So, but you want to talk about what song it was? You can just say
it was Sheep Who Lie in Fur by Con Artist. They're actually, we used their track in our promo video for that you'll see right on the Indiegogo. So if you check out the site, give it a listen. It's really, really cool. I promise.
Yeah, it was a sweet jam. I was thinking that while I was watching the video.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave you. Up next is Melody Fair. This is going to be Eternal Tapestries until she gets here.
KXLU 88.9 FM, Los Angeles.